Hello. Once again, it's your crazy duo, Marquette and Paul Renham with the Homesville Realty Group. We're sitting really close together today.
Well, that's because you're hot.
No. Well, anyway, welcome to episode 13 of Calls with Paul. Today, we're deep diving into the numbers and taking a look back at the first quarter of Austin's 2019 real estate market and kind of looking at how it's playing out compared to 2018. And if we're lucky, you'll pull out your crystal ball and give us some predictions about what to expect the rest of the year.
I'd be happy to share a wag.
Oh, what's a wag?
Don't know what that is? It's a wild blankety blank guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So you do these real estate reflections at the beginning of every month, and we're a little slow getting it out this month, but
that was my fault.
It doesn't matter whose fault it is. We're getting it out now. It'll be going out via email later today and stuff. But I think it's always interesting to look back at the, once we hit April Fool's Day,
yeah,
no joke, we kind of take a look back at the first quarter of the market. And do you think that's a relatively decent prediction of what to expect for the rest of the year?
Yes and no. I think in the last couple of years, we've really had the years be front-loaded. So we've had the spring and the first and second quarters be super strong, and then kind of slower in the third and fourth. But we'll see this year. I mean, it's a whole new year, so you never know.
Well, how did the first quarter of this year look just overall in 2019 compared to 2018? I know that January was flat.
So,
Not just for us, but everybody we talked to, it was flat.
Yeah, it was really pretty ugly. And until the government shut down, we didn't really start jamming. Which is odd, but that's the way that worked. But like overall, quarter to quarter, it was. I thought I was going to do all this research and find some interesting stuff, but what I really found was it was kind of mashed potatoes and sort of the same thing as last year's. About the same amount of homes sold. We're up a little bit on sold price averages, and we're up in a few areas, but nothing like super crazy remarkable. But as I dove into the data, there were some dissimilarities. Is that the right word?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a rough season. We had the government shut down in the fall. People were really uncertain about what was coming. Mm-hmm. And it felt like sort of the slowdown that we felt in January actually sort of started in December, where people just went, whoa, I'm not doing anything until we know more about where the market's going to play out. And then kind of interest rates sort of dropped, and that kind of served as a stimulus, didn't it, to the market? So talk a little bit about how many houses sold in that first quarter of this year as compared to last year.
First quarter of this year, we did 416 homes. Last year, I don't remember what the exact number was, but it was real close.
And we're talking inside the Central Austin Loop. We're not talking Austin overall.
Inside the loop, inside of the
which is
what we call Central Austin, which is I-35 to the east of us, 183 going up at the top, and then 360 coming down, and then 71 or Ben White down at the bottom.
Cool. So, which is interesting because we like to talk zip codes because people understand what those are rather than
you can't argue about zip codes.
But that also means that when you look at that, you're splitting some zip codes.
Right. There's some neighborhoods that some zip codes that have very different values just based on a street like Burnett Road.
Cool. Well, so we had 414 home sales. That was not very different from last year. Yep. Nothing really remarkable there. Where are homes selling inside the Central Austin Loop? Where are you seeing the greatest concentration of home sales?
Well, I'm glad you brought this over because I wasn't going to have that memorized. But 78704 by far was the big winner, but it's also the largest zip code by geographic size. It's really the whole zone south of the river, and it's the whole south of the loop, really.
That counts Barton Hills, Zilker, Bolden, Travis Heights. Are there any other neighborhoods in there?
There's a whole bunch of them, but
those are the biggies.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
You also had 78757, didn't you?
Yeah, 57's a little bit smaller on the north side of the river. It's the big neighborhoods that you'll think of in there are Crestview, Allendale, and Wooten, and that one I personally think and I don't have the tools or the skills to do it, but if you could take the per acre size and say how many homes were sold, I think that's 57 would be the winner.
The strongest
for the hottest zip code. Yeah.
What are the other couple of zip codes that were the greatest number of sales?
Well, right here where we live in 78731 seemed to be particularly hot. which is Northwest Hills, Cat Mountain, the Courtyard. Oh gosh, what do they call that now?
Highland Park West.
Highland Park West. Thank you.
Also includes Oakmont, Ridgelia, and part of Allendale.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny swath that we have, but that seemed to be firing off pretty well. Also.
And I'm totally cheating. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm looking at the piece of paper.
Yeah, that's why we keep looking down. It's hard to do a real market report when, like, I dive deep into it and then I write it down.
Yeah.
I don't memorize it.
And then last but not least, 78703, right?
Yeah, so 78703 was pretty hot. It was another interesting one that changed quite a bit. The top end seems to be slowing, but 78703 has the condos and whatnot in it. So
we'll talk a little bit about that because there were 2 zip codes, 78703 being one of them.
Yeah.
And then the portion of Westlake that was inside the loop, 78746. Yep. Those are some anomalies, and we'll dig into those. I don't want to go there yet, but I think it's interesting. So if you look at those zip codes, were there any surprises there? Does that look like what the popular neighborhoods were last year?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, all of it stayed kind of the same. A little bit had changed in number of homes sold and volume. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same old story.
And if you guys are into data, we have some charts that we'll be putting out in the blog post and the email, and we're happy to share those with you. So you can always look at those if you want to follow that along. One of the things I thought was, interesting is it seemed like, to hear you tell it anyway, that like our normal spring market started a little early.
Yeah.
Like once the shutdown ended and the interest rates dropped, people that would normally maybe have waited didn't wait.
Well, they got pretty excited because, like, at the time, if you'll remember, if you were paying attention to interest rates, the government shut down on the 22nd, and by January 1, interest rates were really coming down quickly, and the Fed hadn't announced at that time that they were really going to leave rates alone. So people were jumping on anything that they could to secure lower rates that made sense for them. So I think our spring really took off in January.
Well, another one of the things that I thought was interesting is that, there's this sort of belief that Austin is going gangbusters and that, everything is on the increase. But you did the data. There were actually some zip codes and neighborhoods that had fewer homes sold in the first quarter of 2019 than in the first quarter of 2018.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of those neighborhoods.
Well, or zip codes.
Zip codes.
So these are the ones.
I'll walk you through it. 78746, which again is a portion of Westlake that is east of 360.
And that didn't surprise me too much because with rates going up and down and government shutting down, folks with the kind of money that generally goes into Westlake would slow a little bit. What we noticed was there were last year there were 56 homes sold in the first quarter in 4.6, and this year there were
35 or 34.
35 or 36, something like that. I have notes here that I'm going to try not to stare at while I talk on video. But, it was a big difference and the average sales price was down. But the interesting thing is the average sold price for Westlake was up, so I was cramming on that right before we came
we'll get to that because it is interesting. So you've got the 78746 just as a placeholder in your mind. The volume of sales, the number of sales was down significantly. You also had a decrease in sales in Hyde Park, North Loop, and Ridgetop, all of which are in 78751.
Yeah, I don't really understand that either because that seems like a good high value location to show up in, but it wasn't down like crazy numbers. So there's going to be normal just sort of fluctuations.
It was down in 78756, which is Rosedale and Georgian Terrace.
Yeah, that one I understood a little bit.
We'll talk about that more.
Yeah.
And then it was also down in 78759, Westover Hills.
Yeah, that one I read is kind of flat, but I didn't really understand what was causing that to go down. I would have expected that one to be jamming.
And then 78705, just north of UT, also had a decline.
Yeah.
So overall, where were the most home sales? I think you already said were in 78704. But if you look at sales volume, even 04 was down a little bit, wasn't it, in Q1 compared to 2018?
It was, but just a smidge. But it's so far ahead. If you look at the charts that we end up posting online, it's so far ahead for the last several years that it's going to take a lot to bring that big boy down.
Let's talk about Westlake and Tarrytown.
Yeah.
4.6 and 78703. Yeah. So it seems like Westlake definitely felt the pinch in the first quarter.
Absolutely.
With fewer sales, but it wasn't just the fewer sales that were down, was it? It was the price.
Yeah. So everything was really down except for the average sold price number. Like not the average sold price, the whole average sold price per foot number.
Would tell me, because like he did this report and I read and edit them, and my mind was like, wait a minute. So Westlake's number of sales dropped. Westlake's total sales volume, meaning the dollars exchanged or price points, if you will, for homes dropped.
Yeah.
But the price per foot went up. I don't understand that.
We sold fewer homes they were all smaller. Is the short answer of it.
Oh, and smaller homes go for usually a little higher price per foot.
They're about I'm not going to stare at this because this is all new and you don't know about it, but like it was about 700 on average. 700 feet less were sold in the homes in Westlake, so they were pretty much smaller.
So the uber luxury gigantic homes were a little flat or depressed? Even?
Well, I mean, it depends. You can either say last year it was excited and this year it's normal or whatever, but the big difference was last year we had several homes that were like $5.5 million. We had 4 or 5 that were over this year's high, and then we had this year's high at 3.3. So you had some like 5s and 4s. Yeah,
you were telling me that like in the first quarter of 2018, like the most expensive sale in the east section of Westlake was $5.5 million, but in this quarter the highest sale was 3.3. That's $2 million difference.
That's a pretty significant difference. Yeah. So that skews numbers pretty good.
It really does. And what about Terrytown, 78703 and those neighborhoods?
Well, I think Terrytown took a hit too, but it was buffered, I think, a little bit by the condos and townhomes and.
So whereas Westlake doesn't have as much multifam, Terrytown has a little bit of a better mix of single-family homes and multifamily homes.
Right. It has like the AB units and stuff like that. It just has a more diverse population of homes and sizes and whatnot. In Westlake, it's mostly, bigger homes in the area that we're looking at. Although there's, that Yopon Valley and whatnot, they have some smaller in there. But for the most part, they're much bigger homes in Westlake.
Cool. So basically, Terrytown or 78703, I shouldn't just say Terrytown, that's more neighborhoods, but just easily to kind of put it all together.
I got you, babe.
Thank you. 78703 had more home sales year over year this quarter, but a lower total dollar exchanges. So prices were down a little bit.
So prices were down.
So the things that were moving, you were seeing basically, does that mean you were seeing more movement in the lower priced homes in 78703?
Right.
So that kind of brought the overall average price point down.
Right.
But things were still, in those lower price points,
things are still cranking in Terrytown, but just lower end stuff.
Cool. What do you think? Do you think you're going to continue to see this happen in Westlake and 78703 for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on stability out there. I think if we can get a sense that the government is stable and that the Fed's going to stay right where he is, I think you may see a return of the high-end buyer and seller stepping back in. But I think it's just so unstable right now. It's hard to deploy all your capital, especially if you don't have to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So price per foot, I know that you don't love price per foot as a measure, but a lot of people do kind of use that as a way to gauge how the market's doing.
Yeah, so I've been including more of that for that reason.
So price per foot from one year to the next, up, down overall, flat, same?
Pretty much up. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but most neighborhoods were up.
Well, in January, it looked like it was the same.
Yeah.
And then in February, I'm going to use your favorite word. We saw a
lurch.
We
lurched.
What does that mean?
Well, you know how to. You drove a stick. You drove a Porsche stick shift one night.
Yes, I did.
Trying to learn. Can you imagine that?
My first stick shift was a tractor, but I've come a long way since then.
So as you're learning how to take the clutch in and out, you might cause the car to lurch all of a sudden instead of move smoothly. And so what we saw in the market was when rates went down, buyers really came out in force, and there were so few homes out that we saw numbers really
Saw a lurch in price per foot.
We saw a lot of multiple offers.
378 up
Yeah.
to 426 in
Yeah.
1 month.
Yeah, that's a pretty big lurch.
That's a pretty big lurch.
I don't know if we'll hang on to that or not.
Well, in March we haven't. In March we stayed stable. Well, I shouldn't say we stayed stable. We didn't see a continued increase, which was, given our affordability issues, was kind of a nice thing that it didn't continue to go up.
Another lurch would be crazy.
Another lurch would be crazy. So if we look at zip codes by price per foot, we saw everything from a 1.2% increase in 78704 all the way up to a 16.85% increase in price per foot in 78756.
That really made my head spin when I first saw that.
What's that about?
Well, so what it's about is last year, so 5.6 is divided up and with Burnett Road kind of going down the middle. Mm-hmm. On the west side of Burnett Road, you have Rosedale, where homes are more expensive, and on the east side, you have Georgian Terrace, where it's a little bit less money. And in 2018, we saw a lot of homes in the first quarter get sold over on the Georgian Terrace side, so that kept the average down.
The price point, average
for
price
Rosedale,
point.
And this year it's a more even split, so we're up 16% because we're selling more
of the higher end homes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not really.
I wouldn't it's like really a quarter
it's
is
kind of misleading.
Yeah, a quarter is really not enough to really designate a trend or we'll see at the end of the year. But like it was a big leap.
Well, in our personal neighborhood, one that's near and dear to me, in 78731, it was up 5.63%.
That's right.
Is that
up here, babe?
Well, I'm not taking credit for that. We get vilified enough on Facebook for somehow being responsible for the fact that people are moving here from out of state and that prices are high.
Yeah.
We, the two of us, did not magically single-handedly make that happen.
We didn't, because
No.
I pretend sometimes that we do.
Well, you're my problem then. But 78731 is up 5.63%. Is that in line with what you've been seeing in terms of incremental appreciation in Northwest Hills and the surrounding areas?
Yeah, so like for the last several years, Austin, just to give everybody kind of a barometer, we've been seeing 5.5% to 6% growth. This year, we really thought we were going to see it slow down to about 4%, but I'm not really seeing signs of that. I think in the fall, that was where the smart money was at. I don't regret that prediction, but it's not coming true, which is fine.
Well, we're going to not go into all of the zip codes, but if you're curious, you can always check out our blog at homesville.com. This will get posted. You'll be able to see the charts and see your particular zip code. Or if you have a question about what this means for you, you can always reach out. So you've explained the anomalies for 5.6, and we, how Westlake had an increase in price per foot, which was kind of interesting. Let's talk about pricing highs and lows. This is one of my personal favorites of your market reports.
You do like that part,
I do like that part. So what was I think people are curious, like what was the least expensive home that sold? What was the most expensive home that sold? So tell us about the least expensive home. I'm going to,
you want to fix my hair?
Yeah, every time you take your glasses off, you could put your hair.
I might put them back on just because I'm used to
go.
feeling them up here. So the least expensive one was a $200,000 or thereabouts, a home kind of at 183 and in I-35, right where it comes around the I guess that's the northeast side of our loop, and it's a teardown.
And it went for $201,000, which
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of shocking that the least expensive home that sold this quarter inside Central Austin was 201.
Yeah.
Now that was a single family home, not in the condo range, right?
No, that was a full-on home.
Okay, so you're looking at the
They bought a
least
lot.
expensive
Yeah.
single family home,
They bought an
because condos would be a different number.
That's right.
Okay, and the most expensive home on the other end of the spectrum was what?
It was a big, bad to the bone tiger. Look at this.
$8.8 million or $8.4 million, 5 bedrooms, six bathrooms, because you need to not have anybody waiting in line to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I didn't want you to see that really.
150 feet of water frontage on over half of an acre, a gorgeous swimming pool.
It was a sexy little house.
Beautiful windows, fantastic views. Well, if you've got a couple of extra million, then I'll go shopping. But otherwise, you don't have to. I think that's out of our budget.
You got a great 8 or 9 million sitting around, and you need to deploy it somewhere. This was a good spot. And it had like 150 feet of lake frontage. That was the exciting thing to me.
Yeah.
Like just from a value end, like that's never going to really go down.
So the most expensive home inside Central Austin, the first quarter was $8.4 million. The least expensive was $201,000. But you also uncovered something else about price per foot and
I
prices. Yeah, you did. Your $1,000 a foot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I got real excited. I was inside the Compass Facebook workplace thing, and some of our colleagues were talking about
In California.
No, this one was in Boston, and he said, I work the area. This is a referral thing. He said, I work the area that's just outside the very center of Boston. So if you don't want to spend, get this, guys, if you don't want to spend $1,000 a foot for your home, I work in that area.
Well, for all those people,
got me thinking.
all those people that are hating on us on Facebook,
they're going to really hate us now.
Like we have our garden villa listing in Zilker or not Zilker, our garden villa in 78704 that went pending its first weekend on the market. People were hating on us on Facebook about that post, like hating on us.
Did we have it coming?
I don't think so. But and I try to be nice and polite when I respond to people, but I kind of want to be like, dudes. In some areas, $1,000 a foot is sort of the norm.
We're gonna build a collection. Is that right, sir? We're gonna build a collection, and you guys will be able to see. Like I think this is what's coming for Austin, not now or next year, but like in the next 5 years. I think we'll see more of this.
Well, we have some. So what was interesting is that then you went and looked, and there are homes in Austin that are selling for over $1,000 a square foot. And
there were because it gets a little more complicated than that. Like there were 38 total homes that all sold over $1,000 a foot, but a lot of those are like 300 square foot homes on awesome lots, right? So I eliminated all of that, and we ended up with 15 real properties, including downtown condos.
How do they look?
You hadn't seen them yet.
I haven't.
You'll be I kind of thought you would really enjoy that. But
so if you kind of want to look at really beautiful properties, you might want to check out this collection that's going to be embedded in the blog post of these homes that are selling for $1,000 a square foot in Austin.
Thank you.
Well, our neighbor has decided to turn on his power washing stuff.
He's cleaning his equipment.
Yeah, we'll just try to wrap this up quickly. Homes that didn't sell is also an important barometer to look at. Yeah. And this, again, my mind was like, what? You looked at, and looking at 2018 as compared to 2019, it was a little surprising to me. Both in January, February, and March of this year, we had more homes inside the Central Austin Loop that did not sell in 2019 as compared to 2018. What is up?
Well, I think there's several things. I think the most important thing is that not everybody has gotten the message that things are slowing. Like, while, and I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, 33% of our homes inside the loop sold within the first week. And
that's a key to pricing it right and preparing it for sale and timing the market.
Yeah. So getting that right is really key. But I think a lot of people still are going for the brass ring that we had, a couple of years ago. I mean, we've been slowing now for, seems like a couple of 2-3 years. But slowing from super, super white hot to red hot, right?
Yeah. So it's fascinating. And homes fail to sell for all sorts of reasons. Like they get shop worn, they were priced too high to begin with. They have, they have terrible photos. They have an agent that didn't do a good job marketing their home. I'll save my soapbox. You can watch other videos to see my soapbox. In the most interesting change year over year, what was the most interesting change?
The days on market were down considerably.
Okay.
I think that was
for each month, the days on market was down.
Yeah, for each month. I think people got rabid when rates went down, and we saw that. And I think now that the Fed has announced that they're going to leave things alone, I think the fear of missing out on rates has subsided a little bit. We'll see where it all goes.
I mean, it was in March last year, it was an average of 79 days on market, and this year in March, it was an average of 62 days. For us, we have one.
We have one, but
but it went on in November, which was a terrible time to go on the market and was counter to your advice. But other than that, all of our listings have sold. Truly, every single one have sold in under 5 days.
Yeah.
All of them for over asking?
They all could have sold in 1 or 2, but we like to let it sit out there and
you got
sure we get
offers the first day on the market. Am I right that they all sold for over asking?
No. No,
Most of them did, though.
but that's pending. That have closed. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. I'm not
Well, anyway, so you think that the interest rates dropped,
at or beyond.
that prompted people to kind of get off the fence really fast, take advantage of it, and so we had this surge in activity. Also, there were fewer homes on the market, so there was more competition for those homes. So you had more people kind of doing the bidding war, multiple offer thing.
Yeah.
All right. So what comes next? What's your forecast for the remainder of 2019?
I think a lot of it depends on, like I said earlier, on the government, like stability for the high end stuff. I think as long as rates are low, we have, Google, Facebook, and probably Command Center that I'm really excited about.
Army Futures Command.
Yeah, they're like, I think they build spy gadgetry. So I'm really excited about that coming to town.
Don't tell our son. That's all we need.
He and I, we'll go. In fact, we should YouTube that stuff.
Anyway.
But I think it'll continue to be another strong year for the Austin market, just because we don't have many homes available for buyers, and we have a lot of people coming in. So your supply demand curve is you're seeing more demand than we do. We have homes, so that's a good thing for prices to go up.
Well, there you go. That's the first quarter report for homes selling inside the Central Austin Loop. If you guys have any questions and want to know, like, what does this mean for your personal property or your personal situation, or maybe where you should look to buy, or if you want advice about the market, or you just want to talk real estate because you like it, please reach out.
Talk to me.
He'll talk to you a lot. And anyway.
I do a lot of listening,
I know. You're very good at that.
I listen.
Well, that concludes episode 13 of Calls with Paul. Tune in next Wednesday at 12 p.m. and we'll be sure to entertain. So thanks, and we're signing off.
We'll see. Adios, guys. What episode is it?
13.